Jeremy, thank you so much again for joining us this evening. First of all, tell me a little bit how you got involved with FIBI.
FIBI started back in 2007, and it was essentially just because we were sitting in the back of some of the local real estate meetings. Some of them are great, and some of them are not as good, and we just kind of wanted to start a forum where there were no sales pitches, and we were just kind of tired of being pitched books and tapes at some of the meetings. So we said, you know what, rather than go to these meetings where they have the pitches, let's just start our own. And so now we have I think 15 chapters in Southern California, over 10,000 members, and really our core foundation is there is no sales pitch at our meetings.
Wow.
So.
Well, that's amazing. And I sat through your Q&A, and one of the things I took away from it was that you have a 20-year plan. I feel like that's amazing. That's amazing. I feel like that can be daunting for some people. So what kind of advice can you give to even starting a plan?
Well, I would say, you know, it sounds like it might be daunting, but the thing I like about it is it actually takes a lot of pressure off. If you think about it, if you need to be in a certain place in 20 years, it gives you a lot of time and a lot of leeway to get it done and to also adjust over time. So one of the reasons why I have it is just to kind of take the pressure off. And I think the key is if you're going to make a plan that's that far out there, you've got to be organized about it. You've got to get it on paper. You've got to get it on a spreadsheet. And you've got to actually make sure you're going towards that goal. So I guess the biggest piece of advice I have is consider the longer term plan, because it takes less pressure off. But just make sure you're really on top of it. Make sure you actually get organized from the start, because if you're not organized about it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, you mentioned that that if it's the longer it is, the more you have time to adjust it. So how many times have you rewritten your 20-year plan?
It's happened a number of times. Now I feel like it's almost on autopilot in a weird way, because I just know I'm going to get there. Probably took me about, I'd say it took me about 7 or 8 years until I got to that point. So it was definitely redone a few times. But that's okay. You know, that's the great thing is that it's so far out. That's totally fine.
And what year are you on in your plan?
Well, I'm on about so I'm the kind of guy that I like to have the longer term goals, and I like to keep pushing them back, and then I like to create new ones. So the original one started in 2002. So in theory, it's about 8 years off. But I've actually modified it over time and set larger goals, but that were further out. And so at this point, I actually have yearly goals, but they go out 20 years.
I see. So, and again, one of the themes was, people go to these networking events and then they don't really know how to use the tools that they learn here when they leave the door. So what do you want people to take away from, what you spoke about?
Yeah, I would say, as AJ mentioned, it's all about implementation, and I think the biggest thing is that it's also about persistence. So, if people were networking here tonight and took notes on business cards and have their follow-ups, and they try to follow up and the follow-up doesn't happen, I would encourage people to keep trying the follow-up. I mean, I literally will follow up with someone maybe 4 or 5 times before I let it go, because often someone's just traveling for a week or two, or they were too busy to get your email, and there's a lot of lost opportunity without the additional follow-up. I think that's one of the keys. So,
and lastly for you, what is your next goal?
My next goal my next goal is to get home and go to sleep, but no, seriously.
Is that in the plan? You put that in there like 10 years ago?
No, that's not in the plan. No, I'm in a place, honestly, where what I do is I actually look at my monthly cash flow. So for me, my goal is like what's going on in my cash flow every month for the rest of the year. That's kind of my bigger picture next goal.
I see.
So,
Jeremy, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure to see you. Thanks again.
Thanks very much.